People often ask me what systems thinking has done for me. I became really very aware of the benefits of systems thinking in my work in the early days of practicing. My roles often involved working across more than one programme and across organisational boundaries. And using systems thinking helped me to engage with multiple programmes of work effectively and concurrently. And this was something that I did anyway, but the systems thinking helped me to up my game. That was because my productivity increased. I could engage with and understand complex situations much more quickly than I had been able to before. Systems thinking helped me learn vital lessons. And here are a very small selection of 5 from my early days of practicing. They're still relevant today and continue to inform my current practice. The first lesson is that people need a safe space and an opportunity to react and come to terms with and articulate their feelings about change. When change is suggested, some anxiety from those trying to work out what it means for them is really quite normal. I very quickly came to realise that if you don't give these anxieties and concerns time and space to be aired and worked through, they continue to linger. And this can lead people to making up in their own minds stories about how the change is going to impact them. A lot of the stories they make themselves believe are not true, and the intensity of the concerns could have been reduced much earlier in the process if the time and space had been given to airing and discussing them. Of course, people will inevitably continue to have concerns, but brushing them off like they don't matter is not generally a useful way forward. The second lesson is that it's really useful to respect different views and perspectives about a situation. The systems thinking diagrams I was using in my work, such as causal loop diagrams and rich pictures, allowed our perspectives and in some cases our feelings, including our unconscious thoughts and feelings, to be displayed without entering into a he said, she said kind of scenario. Using the diagrams dissolved previous tensions. It made us see situations with a different lens. That which was previously unsaid started to rise to the surface. And whilst we didn't have all of the answers, at least we could see more of what we were dealing with so that we could start working with it more effectively. The third lesson was to allow time to listen to conflicting interests and needs of the people and organisations involved in the situation. And this is a very underrated exercise. It's extremely valuable. In my experience, people hate feeling that their personal, professional or organisational interests in a situation are not as valued as someone else's. You might recognise the situation when one person in a room thinks that their organisation is going to suffer as a result of any suggested changes. But just knowing that the other people involved in the situation understand what you and your organisation need to get out of this situation can be a powerful tool to dissolve barriers to progress. You might not be able to accommodate everyone's needs and wants, but at least you will know that the areas where accommodations might need to be made are. And you can start thinking through what those accommodations might need to look like so that people can get as much out of the change as possible. The fourth lesson is that it's possible to identify systemic issues in a situation. And if we understand these issues well, it can help us to consider what steps might be possible next if we want to make change. Systems thinking taught me to stay away from the blame game about things that have already happened in work situations. That's just wasted energy. Shifting the emphasis away from blame and onto things like how the dynamics in the scenario are causing vicious feedback loops, or identifying where there are variety imbalances, or where organisational subsystems are not integrated, for example, can focus our energies on possibilities for moving forward. So taking time to understand what currently is not necessarily wasted time. It can help us better understand the possibilities for what might be. And the fifth lesson is that there can be a lot of power in collective decision making, especially when you're engaged in multi-organisational work. In this kind of work, it can be quite difficult to make decisions on our own as one organisation. Our decisions often impact heavily on several other organisations, and so collective decisions can help to reduce any unintended consequences further down the line. Very often in my work, we learned how to learn our way forward together and how to make decisions together, but we had to learn how to do that. And these examples are just a small sample of the things that came to light for me in the early days of my systems practice. Thanks to my new insights brought about by systems thinking, I went from being frightened of new complex situations, not knowing where to start, not understanding the systems at all, through to seeing patterns of system behaviour, acknowledging dynamics and issues in situations quite easily. So for me, systems thinking has minimised my fear in the workplace. It gave me a really deep sense of peace inside really early on, no matter how big the challenge in front of me was. And this brought significant, powerful benefits, not just to my work, but also to my personal life.